Hey guys, subscribe for daily content, and if you're shopping for gear, make sure you check out the description for the newest items at some of the very best online retailers. There's also links for some of the items that I personally recommend. Thanks!
What's going on YouTube? Metal Complex here, and today I have a long overdue knife review / knife overview to share with you guys. This is the Ticonic Knives Ticonic 1. Who is Ticonic Knives? It's Jeff from Tough Knives and Rob from RS Knife Works. I'm going to go ahead and try to pronounce their last names. Please, Jeff and Rob, please don't be mad at me. Both of your last names are so difficult. Blovelt? I know that I messed that up. I'm so sorry, Jeff. I'm sure that he's laughing right now. And then Rob Senescalchi, I'm so sorry. I'm very familiar with Tough Knives and RS Knife Works, or RSK. These two have been members of the community for a super long, I mean, like you should definitely be familiar with them both, right? But what they've done here is they've collaborated with Vosteed to create something that was almost certainly destined to be a winning design. And spoiler alert, it is. I really like this. Personally, maybe I'm a little biased. I'll just admit this right off the bat. I am a huge fan of the Tough Knives aesthetic. I have been for a while. I'm excited about this. I'm also excited about the obvious implications of the future, considering this knife and other, design collaborations between these folks here. But this is really, really good. I'm going to link it down in the description. I think the price point is pretty competitive, and it has a number of really interesting elements. So please check that out. It does help my channel when you use those links, but that's entirely up to you. Thanks so much to Ticonic Knives for sending this in. Thanks to my patrons for supporting me. Let's go ahead and get a measurement here. Overall length, it's on the smaller side, but in no way does it feel like a small, dainty knife. It also doesn't feel awkwardly cumbersome, as is the case sometimes when you get a really small knife and it's kind of chunky. This is 6.75 inches with a blade length of 2.85, which is great for those of you who live in those states who have stupid knife laws, or you travel a lot, right? The blade or the cutting edge length is about 2.5 inches. Let's do some size comparisons. Any custom scales you find in this section can be found down in the description under original, goat, and other. So up against the 8010, the 8020.5, you can see here it's on the smaller side. Not dramatically different in cutting edge than the 20.5, but it does have less. Something to note. Let's put it up against the Spyderco PM2 and the Spyderco Para 3. Once again, closer to the size of the smaller one here, the Para 3, which with much closer overall cutting edge to the Para 3, much shorter in overall length. And then finally, let's put it up against the Benchmade Griptilian, or in this case, the Ritter Hogue and the Hogue Deca. All right, how's the action on this knife? This is one of my favorite things. This knife is not a button lock. It's a button-operated compression lock or top liner lock from Vosteed. We have seen tons of button locks. They're really cool, but the standard plunge lock has a downside. It relies on very specific geometry that has not proven to be the most reliable. Some companies can get it right, other companies cannot. And so we've got pretty widely varying results there with just normal use, right? Sometimes a really bad plunge lock can result in the lock disengaging during not abuse, but just regular use of the knife, which is not good. A better system is a button-operated liner lock, because a lot of companies have figured out proper liner lock geometry, and in normal circumstances is very unlikely to disengage. What's much, much better, totally different universe, is a compression lock. The same type of system, essentially, that Spyderco uses and has been using for a long time. Fortunately, for the entire knife industry, the patent on that system has expired, which means companies can now use this. Vosteed has taken full advantage of this and developed their own, and they have done an outstanding job. They have implemented on a few different models. I can't wait to see what else they implemented on, but it's essentially the system we're looking at here. The liner lock slips in behind a little tab of the tame, what we would refer to as the tang of the blade in this case, making both the lockup and the stability of the lockup substantially better than a simple liner lock. These are so much better, but you get the benefit of operating the knife via a pill-shaped button on the side. It also has a detent ball, which is something that we don't get in a plunge lock. So you get that crunchy, mushy, just, I don't know, it feels like the whole system's made out of Play-Doh. It just doesn't feel very good. This also has a pretty heavy detent. Not everybody loves that. I do. Oh, for a knife this size, Boy, that is good. I like that a lot. It does take a hard press to move that compression lock or that top liner lock out of the way. But once you do, the action's nice and smooth, and it is very, very easy to manipulate. There's a pretty hefty chunk of titanium on this side, and there's not necessarily a deep scallop here. It's just kind of the same chamfering all the way around. But the hole there is still large enough. Just trying to find a soft way of saying stuff like that. No matter how you say it, it just comes off as gross. So sorry. I'm trying to get my thumb in this hole, and there's not a lot of room. So how would you say it? I'm sorry. I'm a child. I'm making myself laugh, but I know you're laughing right along with it. Don't judge me. Don't judge me. Put yourself in my position, right? I know that there are thousands, potentially over 10,000 people who are going to watch this video over the course of a month or so, right? So that's it. Imagine in my position, right? So anyways, because of the size of that opening hole there, it's actually pretty easy to thumb flick, but it is definitely more satisfying to reverse flick it. You can see there, I had to kick it twice, and it's because I had to push this button further down than I had assumed. It's not a crunch. It's not like the cormorants from Kaiser. I always get on them for that just kind of crunchy action. But there is a lot of lock bar tension, and the lock bar itself does need to travel quite a ways to get completely out of the way. So it's going to take a little more effort than what you're used to with a standard button lock, or even, something like if you're used to the Vosteed button-operated top liner lock on the Raccoon. It definitely takes a harder depression just because of that lock bar tension, which is aiding in this knife's ability to lock up completely and totally solid. I mean, beyond so. So I like this system a lot. I want to see this on more stuff. I have full confidence that Ticonic Knives plans to do this. So this is very, very good. Let's go ahead and do carry profile. Thickness up against the Spyderco Pair 3. It's a robust boy for being a smaller boy, but it's not insanely thick. That's what I mean when I say it's small. It doesn't feel dainty, but it also doesn't feel like stupidly thick, right? It's very similar to the same thickness as the Spyderco Pair 3. I'll give you, I was kind of waving that around. Sorry, I'll give you guys a better look at that. It's very close. Length and height up against the PM2 and Pair 3. This is a super easy knife to carry. Despite being thicker and heavier than a knife of this size, it is still substantially more compact than something like the Para 3 or PM2. So very easy. My experience with it in and out of the pocket was not an issue at all. This is going to weigh more than you might expect or than you are used to carrying, especially if you like smaller knives. It's titanium and M390. We do have a titanium backspacer and titanium clip. There's a little bit of milling for weight reduction, but I'm going to say this probably still weighs over 3.5 ounces. Oh yeah, 3.7 ounces. So, with your blade length being, what did we measure that at? Let's do it again. 3.7 ounces for 2.85 inches of blade. Not perfect ratios, but the whole object is small. I mean, it's a 3.7 ounce object, right? In this territory, it's hard to get hung up on those types of ratios. It seems a little silly. Balance is not too far back from this, right where you're going to put your index finger, right? So, I don't know. For me, it's hard for me to judge ratios as much when the knife is so much smaller. This really wasn't a problem for me. It might be a problem for somebody. If you're like, I carry the mini bug out. Yeah, this will feel bulky and heavy compared to that, but it's still not a big item. So for the most part, it shouldn't be an issue for, a lot of people. I think in the future, if they had considered making knives like this with exterior, like your scale materials like carbon fiber or aluminum or something, then they can make it a little bit lighter. But I like it in titanium. Let's go ahead and do a hardware check. I'm going to get out my tools. As per usual, my tools are very inexpensive and very recommendable. You can find them right down in the section of my description that talks about the tools I use on this channel. So we have a T8 for the pivot. We have T8 for the body screws. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Oh, T8 for the pocket clip, too. Thank you. Jeez, so many companies are like, what should we use? How about T6? That's great. Everybody loves that. T8, thank you. Holy moly. Very easy to take apart and put back together as long as you have the right tools for the job. You should be good to go. Let's measure the blade stock thickness and move into the meat and potatoes here. It's a relatively robust blade stock. I'm going to say that's probably at least 140, maybe closer to 150. It is. In fact, it's over 150. 155 thousandths. a little on the thick side. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the meat and potatoes here. What a cool blade. It's a compound blade with the initial part of the edge being thicker and then this part being thinner, right? What's the purpose of that? I don't know. Like, it just looks cool, honestly. Is it going to slow you down while cutting? Not really. I mean, maybe, right? If you're used to like cutting with the Opinel or something that's like super duper thin, you might feel like this is bogging you down a little bit, but realistically, no. I mean, my experience with this is that it's still pretty slicey. It's not an absolute laser beam. I would call it like medium, maybe medium thick edge for this size of knife, but it's nice and sharp. The factory edge is good, right? It's definitely slicey enough to get your general tasks done. I feel like anybody picking up something like this is all too familiar with this type of blade, this type of geometry. It's not anything too far outside of what we all have come to experience anyway, and they've just added a little bit of flair to it with this pretty unique compound grind, right? And they didn't make it so pronounced that it is actually going to create major hangup for the vast majority of people. So I like it. It seems like we've got a lot of really aggressive like finger position. You know, I always joke and say when it looks like this, it's less of a suggestion and more of a command. But realistically, even where we have these peaks, they're not super aggressive. So I do feel the most comfortable in the positions that are outlined here. This standard grip here is definitely very comfortable, and choked up, it's also comfortable. But most important, we have a compact knife that typically this size of knife, it's really hard to get a full grip on. I can get a full grip on this knife and feel pretty good. Because there's no flipper tab, this flat spot here acts as a space where you can put your index finger. If you feel like you're too close to the edge, you can kind of back up a bit and still be comfortable. It's great. I like it. I wish the jimping had extended further, and I wish the jimping was a little bit deeper. I don't do this a lot, but when I do, I really like to feel like I'm locked in, and I don't want my thumb always bent like that. Sometimes I want to come a little bit out here, but that's a really, really minor complaint. They have a couple of options. You've got the smooth tie, you've got the textured tie, you have a black washed and textured black washed finish for both the blade and the frame. It's not DLC. According to the website, it's just black wash. You'll also notice the HRC range says 60 plus or minus 2. I believe that that's a range that includes everything. According to Jeff, none of the M390 blades I think this was in relation to this knife. None of the M390 blades that were uncoated have left the factory at under 60 HRC. If it is coated, even though it's not a DLC coating or anything like that, you're probably looking at 59. So they got a wide range there just to be safe, but I feel like it sounds like they're really targeting, especially the uncoated M390 blades, they're targeting a minimum of 60 HRC, which is fully acceptable. That's great. That's what we want to see. And I feel like people who are picking up the coated blades know that they're going to reduce the range by 1 point. If you didn't know that, your coated blades, you're going to reduce the overall potential range by 1 point. So I think that's good. That's what we want to see. That's nice. So I appreciate that. Let's see here. There was another big point that I wanted to talk about. We'll move on to the blade. This is the stonewash finish. I like it. Looks good when it got a nice swedge right here. Got a nice tip. Factory edge, like I said, nice and sharp and even all the way through. You have the Ticonic logo over here and just M390 on this side with a little pivot collar. Not a lot, right? Not a lot of branding, billboarding, not a lot of craziness going on here. Just pretty straightforward. The button is recessed enough that I don't feel like you're ever at risk of accidentally disengaging it during use. Even lefties, which by the way, you did not get a position for your pocket clip, which is a bummer. Ticonic knives, you really should consider finding a way to get these pocket clips mountable for left-handed people. Even if you are using this knife left-handed, I couldn't find a position where I could actually disengage it because the button is so far back here and so recessed, and it takes deliberate force and a lot of pressure to move that lock bar all the way over. I can't squeeze this hard enough to get it to disengage. It's just not gonna go anywhere. So yeah, I feel like you're gonna know if your finger is on that button, and even here where I'm deliberately putting it on there, you have to push it. You have to push it. It's not going to come undone unless you really push on it. So I think that extra depth of the button or the depression of the button, that extra lock bar tension is actually working to your benefit. And it feels good, most importantly. There's a lanyard hole. Great. If you like lanyards, you're good to go. We've got a little bit of a highlighted blue titanium backspace here with a little bit of jimping on there. We've got a pocket clip that is short, but also longer. It's like slightly over the 50% line, but that's not really, I don't know. It doesn't, I don't feel it much on this knife. I wish it was a little further back. It didn't really bother me, to be honest. I do like it. Looks good. Looks better than your typical just kind of plain Jane, thoughtless clips that go on a lot of designs. So I appreciate that. That's pretty much it for the frame. There's really not a lot going on there that we need to talk about. Your stop pin's located in a traditional spot right here. No shouldering, but it doesn't need it. You can see where it's contacting the blade right there. Lockup, absolutely solid. There is maybe a little tiny bit of stick, not much, not to the point where it's bothering me, right? No pivot lash, nice and smooth and consistent in here. And again, when you push the button, you're going to get fall shut action. And then your detent, beautiful. No detent lash. We have perfect centering. I've had perfect centering the whole time that I've had it. This system is better than a liner lock and definitely better than exposed frame lock. It's definitely better than your plunge locks or your button operated liner locks. This is just better. The whole system is awesome. It does not create or alter lockup percentage or lockup pressure like a frame lock would during use because it's not exposed. It's not taking the pressure from your hand while you're cutting. They've got the button moved out of the way so that you're not at risk of accidental disengagement. This is just an excellent system. The way that it locks up, the reliability, the safety of it, the ease of manipulation. A knife that is reliable, solid, easy to manipulate, right? I'm just reiterating exactly what I'm saying. This system is so good. It's so funny that it's based on a locking system that was around 20 years ago or longer, right? It's just really good. Arguably, there are systems out there that people could say are better, but I'm flabbergasted that there's only a couple of companies who are messing around with a compression lock right now. I mean, this should be everywhere. This is just a better system. It's on a knife that looks awesome. I love the look of this, right? You can see that where, I'm not saying that I took elements from tough knives, but I have a preference when it comes to aesthetics. You can see it in my Excalibur design. It's not exactly the same, but you can see where, like the kind of stuff that I like. So you can understand why I like this and why I like tough knives. I think they look awesome. This is cool. This knife makes me super excited to see with what else they'll do in the future. I think it's a real kind of dream team combination here of people between Vosteed, Jeff, and Rob. Immediately, as much as I love this, I'm not somebody who loves to carry compact, lightweight knives, right? I'm going to call this lightweight. Compact, though. I do like this one, so it takes something really special to get me to really like it. The other thing is, I think the price point's really fair. $250 as of the time of recording this video. I know the prices on a lot of Chinese-made knives, which if you didn't know, Vosteed's made in China. We got the potential to see the prices go up on those here fairly soon. But as of right now, $250 is very, very competitive, especially considering how durable and capable this thing is. I think it's got some personality. It's got definitely a lot of elements that make it cool and unique and interesting, right? I want a bigger one. I think you should continue to make the small one, obviously, but make one of these that's like 8 1/4. Oh boy, that's what I would die. That would be so cool. But this is a winner. Huge thumbs up. Very recommendable for me. I very much enjoy this knife. Work out a way to get lefty pocket clips on there for sure. But really, really cool. Awesome debut knife, I think. I think this was the debut knife for Ticonic knives and a huge W. So pick this knife up if you were interested or if you were on the fence. Don't be. It's definitely worth it. I am a huge fan of this knife. I will link it in the description. You guys can check it out. Thanks again to Ticonic Knives for sending this in. I will give this knife away on an upcoming live stream, as I usually do. Please make sure to follow me on Instagram at metal_complex. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like. If you'd like to check out my other content, I do, of course, have lots of videos of knives that are either expensive or inexpensive that I do or don't like, so check those out. And if you enjoy all my content, go ahead and click on that Metal Complex logo right there and subscribe because there's definitely more coming. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and have a great day.